Okay, folks, we're going to get things started here. Thank you for coming to the Spring 2013 Norwood House Press Library presentation. Over the next few minutes, we're going to discuss the new product presentation from Norwood House Press. We have a couple of very exciting things for you this spring. We also have some information from one of our consultants, David Hughes, who's going to be sharing some Common Core correlations. We're going to be going through marketing and catalogs, sales promotions, and then one thing that I wanted to make sure everybody was aware of is there's a question box on your panel at the right-hand side of your screen that will allow you to ask questions without disrupting the flow of the webinar. We found that over the last couple of years, this is the easiest way to get questions asked and answered. And towards the end of the webinar, we will go through each individual one and make sure that we answer them. If you have something that's more geared towards your specific situation, I'd be happy to answer those questions at a different time. But that is a good way for you to share questions and get extra information from all of us. As I said, this is the Spring 2013 Library webinar. Patty Hall is on the line with us, who's our president and publisher. Also on the line with us, as I previously mentioned, is our content consultant for the IMAS series, David Hughes. And one of our employees who's not on the line with us, but who is an integral part of the Norwood House Press team, is Lisa Walsh, who handles our customer service and is also our office manager. She won't be joining us. She has quite a few things to do, but we would just want to make sure to mention her. And if you have any questions about orders and things like that that have already been sent in, she's a great individual to talk with. And we'll be discussing her a little bit later on in the presentation as well. The order of events are the new product presentation, the Common Core correlations, review sources, marketing and catalogs, sales promotions. Then we'll go over any questions that anyone has, and then I'd like to give some closing remarks. I first and foremost want to thank everyone for our great year with Norwood House Press. We certainly understand that it isn't easy out in the field right now, but many of you are putting forth an incredible effort in getting orders in, and we really do appreciate that. We're looking forward to an exciting year in 2013. We have some really great products that we're bringing to the table, one being the IMAS, the other being a poetry project that Patty will let you know a little bit more about. If anybody has any need for materials or samples after this is over that we previously put out, get a hold of me and I'll be sure to get those going out to you. And we'll also be discussing some of the new products coming out for the Spring 2013 that will get into your hands as quickly as possible. Now that we've gone over everyone on the line and talked about the flow of presentation, I will hand this over to Patty Hall for the new product presentation. Patty?
Thanks, Frank. Okay. I'd like to welcome you all to the spring presentation and wish you a happy new year. I think we have a great list this spring with some unexpected and unusual assortment, I think, of offerings. On the one hand, we have a major initiative focused on Common Core math for grades K through 6, and on the other hand, a single-title poetry anthology on social justice. It seems odd, but I think it also kind of typifies what we do at Norwood House Press, and that's we publish to meet unfulfilled needs in the marketplace. And so I guess we'll get going with the new products. Sorry about that. Get going. All right. The first title is Indivisible, Poems for Social Justice, and it's compiled by Gail Bush and Randy Meyer. I'm not quite sure if any of you are familiar with Gail Bush, but she's sort of a mover and a shaker and an influencer in the library market. She's the past director of library science programs for Dominican University and National Louis. She's the past president of the Illinois Library Association and past board member of the AASL. She also is a frequent contributor to Knowledge Quest, which is the journal for the AASL. And so she's been around for a long time in the library market, and she's very influential. She's recently retired, and she will put great forth effort, I think, into marketing this book, which she and her colleague Randy Meyer developed almost 25 years ago. They selected the poems, and they've been working on it ever since, and so it's come to fruition. Also, I wanted to mention Randy Meyer. He's a former book list editor, and he's currently a middle school librarian in Massachusetts. How Norwood House Press came actually to publish this book is a long story, probably left for another time. But I do think that it has enormous sales potential, and there's really nothing like it out in the marketplace. Just going to give you some facts on the anthology. There's 54 poems from 20th century poets on social justice. Some of the poets include Dorothy Parker, Maya Angelou, Tupac Shakur, Diane Burns, and the collective group represents really a nice cross-cultural section of America, and I think that everyone will be able to find something that resonates with some of the poems in there. It's for grade 7 and up, and I think one of the major benefits of this anthology, where some anthologies or books on the subject have failed in the past, is that there's really no obscenities or racial slurs in the book. Some very fine pieces of work have been kind of sidelined or distracted by this and kind of taken off of the library shelves. And so we just decided not to go down that path and make that distraction, but have something that everyone would feel comfortable with while still sending them the message. Another important feature of the book is that the foreword is by Common. If you're over 30, you might not know who Common is, but he is a very popular hip-hop artist. He's an actor and a director, and he's also the founder of the Common Ground Foundation, which is headquartered here in Chicago. It does a lot of work for at-risk children. They have day camps and lots of after-school activities to kind of keep at-risk kids going on. And he has supported this project, and he's willing to put his name on it and market it as well as an important piece of literature. There's 96 pages in the book, and that includes the 54 poems, the table of contents, and the foreword by Common. The introduction is by Gail, and a very interesting part of this book is the poet biographies in the back. Generally, when you have biographies of the poets in the back, it's sort of like born, dead, you know, did this, did that. But this is really about the poets at their really formative years, and sometimes when they were in high school themselves, or when they decided to turn to poetry. And so it gives a little bit of an insight to each poet, and also I think is, in some ways, is very inspirational for the reader. The school library price is $10.95, and it's only available in a paperback now. I'm just going to give you some.
And one thing to mention, we are working with a few companies to get a hardbound edition. That was one of the things that we learned from the last presentation, was that there was a desire to have that in a hardcover version, and we are working on that. I just wanted to add that. I apologize, Patty. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. No, that's good. If we feel that it's primarily a paperback format because of the audience, but we have had some requests for hardcover, and we're going to try really hard to accommodate that. So getting back to the book, here are the chapter heads. There's 5 chapters, and each one of the chapters are nicely illustrated by Thomas Bush. There's some familiarity in the name. It's actually Gail Bush's son, but he's a juried artist in Philadelphia, and I think that he did a very great job of representing the work. And here's some examples of the poetry and how it's outlined after the section heads. And it's very simple and I think quite elegant. Here are some other examples here. Okay. Now, as I said, I think that although this is a little bit out of our reach, let me go back here. not out of our reach, but out of what we've normally done in the past. I really do feel that there is an enormous need for this type of book, and I think that it'll do very well. So if you, it will be included in your sampling packets, and I think that it'll go very well in school lists for social justice in middle school to high school. We are also doing a full-page ad and book list in January, and they have already received the copies to start reviewing the book as well. So we do expect to have a lot of review action with this. Okay. All right, on to the Math Readers. The Math Readers is a 30-book series created specifically to align to the Common Core standards for math. In some ways, it has the same general format as the iScience books that we did last year, but in many ways, I think it's stronger. Some of those ways are that the first is that math really has a national standard now, the Common Core, where science doesn't. And so in science, different topics are taught at different age levels and different levels of complexity, whereas so not every science book is going to fit exactly into every school at that appropriate level. But with the math, everyone's sort of on the same page now, and everyone needs to progress through the same exact steps. So I think that this will be much easier to present and much easier to have a wider audience. I think math also lends itself better to this type of book, which emphasizes real-life situations and storylines. I think it's not a stretch really for someone to go through any ordinary day and need to use math and understand that they're using math and see how it relates to their life. Whereas science, sometimes I think it's a little bit more obtuse. Also, I think that the series is stronger because it's been redesigned and the covers are much more inviting and bright. So now let's get on to that. Okay. What is the math? iMath. Now this, actually this PowerPoint presentation is a little prosy and word-like, but we think that it might be useful for you as a product presentation tool, and we actually have a compressed PowerPoint presentation. And if all goes well with this presentation today, then it'll be posted on YouTube as well. And so you'll be able to not only have the audio, but the actual PowerPoint part of it itself, which might be handy for conferences and things like that. But anyway, getting back to the iMath series, basically, as I said before, it's a 30-book series. It's leveled. There's 3 levels, A, B, and C. And I'll get into that in a second. The series itself focuses on Common Core standards for math. It's very tightly aligned by grade level and by strand. And it uses stories, storyline approach. So it can be a narrative, or it can be a story, or sometimes it's informational text. So there's 3 different genres at work throughout the series, sort of randomly. But I think it kind of mixes it up a little bit, and sometimes it's nonfiction, and sometimes it's a narrative, and sometimes it's just a fiction story, all weaving math throughout. The iMath readers also use a lot of open-ended questions. It's very rare that an actual problem is solved within the book. Usually strategies are presented, and then the reader can select a strategy to use and then solve the problem independently. And who is iMath for? Well, they're really for grades K through 6, and the 3 levels are A, B, and C. A is K through 2, B is 3 through 4, and C is 5 through 6. Also, on the covers, you can kind of determine the levels. For example, up at the top here, Herding 100, that has an oval shape, and that's all level A for the oval shape. Looking for Blackbeard's Treasure, all the B books have a triangular shape of the graphic. And then down at the bottom, Winning the Game, that's a level C, and it has sort of an irregular shaped polygon. And so that's the main clue as to what the level is. There's also a small indicator on the spine, but that's about it. All right. I think that also with the iMath, there's a couple different applications for it. It can be used in the classroom for classroom discussion or in the library for independent study and as a resource. Okay. And how does it work? Again, really the emphasis of the book is a storyline approach, using either a narrative or informational text to tell a story and to weave the math strategies within the story. So for example, Mummies in the Library, that's in the middle there. The story is that two siblings have to go to the library and they decide to have a reading challenge. And so they decide they need to read a certain amount of pages a month, and then they need to figure out how many pages a day they need to read in order to meet the reading challenge. And it also incorporates lots of non-fiction information like mummies. One of the siblings likes mummies and Egyptian history, and the other one likes baseball. And so you get kind of a nice complement of different non-fiction components. Let's see what's next. Why is iMath different? Well, I think that it's really different because it was developed to meet Common Core standards. It wasn't developed prior to that. So it really has a nice feel for the standards that are in place now, and it's organized to move along those standards. I think what also is different about the book, and David will get into this in a little bit, is that each book discusses several strategies for solving a problem. I think when you become an adult, you've kind of decided what your strategy is for counting. But in fact, there's several different ways to count. And so, for example, in a book about learning to count, the strategies go through all of the different things like skip counting, using a hundredths charts, or counting on. And so I think it's kind of refreshing, actually, to learn that there's different ways to do things, and it's just not one way, the best way, and it really lets the reader decide and think about what might work best for them. I think also our series is different because we did have David Hughes as our content consultant. And I'm going to get into David in a minute. Okay. All right. As I said before, there's 3 levels. Level A is grades K through 2. It's 24 pages, about 1,000 words, and the AR level is around 2nd grade. Level B is grades 3 through 4, 36 pages, 25 to 3,000 words, and the AR level will probably be in 3rd grade. We've had some preliminary tests on all of them, and they all kind of hover in that range. And then level C is for grades 5 through 6, 48 pages, no more than 6,000 words, and an AR level in the 5th grade. These are some samples of the interior text pages, and as you can see, they kind of, obviously, they get more complex and chunkier as the levels grow. So level A has more white space and leading, and level B gets a little bit more, and level C, fully 5th grade reading material. There's lots of diagrams and illustrations that are all custom made for the series. And there's lots of cross-curricular sidebars like Did You Know, Fast Facts, and connections to other things like language arts. So what I'll do right now is just kind of briefly overview all the features that are in each book, and then we'll just kind of go through them one by one. The first feature, obviously, is that there's chapters and sections. There's always a story introduction that kind of sets the stage for what's going on in the story. And then there's the math ideas section that offers different strategies for working through the problem, and a discover activity that is sort of a hands-on activity to reinforce all of the different strategies. and then the actual iMath concepts and working through the math and working through the story. And then at the end is what comes next, which is sort of a further engagement or an additional challenge to take the math that you just learned and do something else with it. There's lots of nonfiction sections, lots of connections to science, history, art, or engineering, did you know, and fast facts. One of the things I really like about this series is the language arts connection. It's called What's the Word? And some of them are shorter and some of them are longer, but they always are changing to how you can connect your math story to something, a book that you've read or a poem that you've read or words that you've heard that might be slang or just in common usage, and kind of brings in that language arts connection. iMath reinforcement, and so this in the end of every book, it reinforces the iMath ideas and how you would use the different strategies in math to do the concept. Additional notes. And this is, since none of the answers are really provided within the text, the answers are in the back, and that's primarily for parents and educators to just make sure that they got the answers right, that the students got the answers right, or that they, in fact, got the answers right and had an understanding or command of the material. The typical organization is there, the table of contents, glossary, index, further reading. For both fiction and nonfiction, I think it's pretty standard to have further reading in nonfiction, but we've added a fiction component so that there's both there. Again, a nod to language arts connections. I also did want to mention that I think I forgot earlier is that if you look at the bottom right-hand corner of each cover, it'll tell you what the math concept is. So, for example, in Carnival Coins, you can see it's counting money. Space Adventures, it's elapsed time. And Finding the Treasure is graphing coordinate grids. There's also going to be educator resources online. We have teacher notes, and we also will have Common Core state standards correlations. Those aren't posted yet, but they probably will be done by the end of January.
And just real quickly before we move on, I don't know if it got mentioned, but there is also a very strong career connections in each one of the books that highlights how people in various careers use Math Daily. I wasn't 100% sure if that got mentioned, and I just wanted to make sure because that's become a very important feature that when we've been having discussions, and so I did just want to make sure that we mentioned that before we moved on. I apologize, Patty. Sorry.
That's good, yeah, because I think I skipped that. So, and I think David's going to get into that a little bit more as we go. But thank you, Frank. Okay, next up we have David Hughes. And David is our main consultant for the iMath series. He's experienced math teacher, advisor, and presenter. And he is currently working as a consultant for PARC, which is the Partnership for Assessment of Readiness for College and Careers. And these are the people that are actually putting together the assessments for the Common Core. So I think what David has brought to the series is really a very strong fundamental understanding of the Common Core for math, how it is organized and how it is taught, and not only that, but how it's going to be tested. And so I think that he brings that full complement of implementation and achievement to the table for this series. And I have to say that he's been a real joy to work with. He's very detail-oriented, and he's kept us really on track with staying focused on what's in the core and what needs to be focused on, and what's at the right grade level. So, you know, I really give David a lot of credit for the quality of this series, and I think the fun of it, too. And so next, David will be talking to us a little bit about the Common Core standards in general and how the series relates to the standards. David?
Hi, everyone. Excuse me. Hi, everyone, and thank you, Patty. I'd just like to start by just saying that these books really are beautiful books, and I enjoyed being a part of their development. Before we take a look at some of the sections in the iMath readers, I'd like to talk a bit about the Common Core standards and their influence on the iMath readers. This is a quote from the introduction to the state standards, and it gives you some sense of what they aspire to be. We've had over 2 decades of standards in education, but until now, every state has had its own set of standards. So currently, 45 states have adopted the same set of standards called the Common Core for both mathematics and language arts. So from state to state, there is now a common language about where we want our students to be by the end of high school, and a common language about how we expect to get them there. So this is clearly a big shift in instruction, and school districts are certainly looking for resources to help them meet this challenge of implementing brand new standards. So really, when we look at what's happening across the U.S. right now, you see a lot of nervousness and excitement from states and school districts, teachers, and district leaders about what these standards are going to mean for their day-to-day instruction. So they're really looking for resources to help them with that. Just a bit of background. This effort began with the Governors Association, and they brought together various experts in the field. There were multiple rounds of feedback, and all of the states ended up adopting the Common Core except Minnesota, Nebraska, Virginia, Alaska, and Texas. But I think the important point here is, again, that 45 states are implementing the Common Core. And therefore, school districts in all of these states are looking for new resources to help them with that. So that's where iMath comes in. All 30 of the iMath readers went through a rigorous review to ensure that they were aligned to the Common Core. And again, these were created both for language arts and mathematics. There may be some support materials for other subject areas in the future. At this point, they've nixed the idea of creating standards for other subject areas, but as we know, things could always change. So what I'd like to do is take us through some of the big ideas or principles that guided the development of the standards, and then in turn show how these principles are evident in the iMath readers. So first, thinking about this idea of focus, which comes from Stephen Covey's idea of beginning with the end in mind. Basically, having a clear sense of what our destination is, where we want to be, where we want our students to be, and then only taking steps along that path to get to that destination. So in this case, we're talking about making sure that kids are career and college ready by the time they leave high school, and making sure that we're not just teaching good stuff, but we're teaching things that clearly lead them along that path that makes a difference. So the introduction in the iMath readers is a good example of this focus, because rather than just pack the books full of everything that educators might want, we took a cluster of standards from the Common Core and placed them in a really rich context, one that extends through the book. And this gives the students a real purpose for doing the mathematics. And we know it's math that matters, math that leads them towards our ultimate goal, because it aligns to the Common Core at each of those corresponding grade levels. when the Common Core was being written, it was important that they were evidence-based or supported by research. Before the Common Core, the curriculum in the United States was characterized as being a mile wide and an inch thick, meaning that there's so many topics that we're attempting to cover that we're not always getting to the depth that we intended. So in contrast, all of the countries that are high performing in mathematics, whether they're East Asian countries or countries like Finland, had less topics and more depth. One of the places that depth is really promoted in the iMath readers is in the iMath Ideas. And here students are encouraged to explore multiple ways to solve a problem, as Patty mentioned before. So it's about really understanding the problem and the mathematics involved so that you can make good judgments about how to approach it. If you look at the letter C example, you can probably see there's some tally marks in a chart, and then next to that there's some base 10 blocks or pictures of base 10 blocks. And then if you go further into that book, you'll see that there's more arithmetic ways to solve. This is important because even though this is a grades 5, 6 book, we want students to be able to connect to their previous understandings, connect to their previous learnings, and being able to build on that so that we're not just asking them to memorize a procedure and practice it over and over, but we're really wanting them to see why having procedures would be important, why it might be more efficient or more effective in solving certain kinds of math problems. The writers of the standards also knew that it was critical that students have enough time to make sense of the content that they were learning, that it really wasn't about covering material, but it was really about students learning and understanding the material. So that means, of course, that teachers need to have time to really develop these ideas. One place that this idea of coherence or sense-making is evident is in the Discover activities. And in these activities, students typically engage in a hands-on activity or a game that is for the purpose, again, of making sense of the standards that are being addressed, the mathematics that they're doing. So as you can see in some of the examples here, there's one where there's a clock that students made to help them think about the hands on the clock and how both the hands work together. And you can see that there's a line plot and graphs and other things that kids can use when they're doing actual real-world activities. So, of course, these kinds of activities take time. But the idea here is that it's time well spent because it allows for that coherence or sense-making to occur. Career connections, as Frank was mentioning, this is an important part of this series because this directly brings us full circle back to this idea of the end in mind. Where are we trying to lead our students? Where do we want them to be by the end of high school? And this gives them some connection as to how is the math that they're doing on a day-to-day basis? What does it mean for a future career? And so I think if I had to bottom line it, I would say that the iMath readers do a wonderful job of addressing the Common Core standards for mathematics and the larger ideas that are important in any successful math program. So I'll turn it back over to Patty now, and she's going to address some of the other connections.
Thank you, David. Okay. As David mentioned, there are other connections within the books, too. Some of them that we're going to look at are history, art, or STEM. science, technology, engineering, and math. And these are just some examples of how these connections are made within the books. For example, on the far right-hand, or left-hand top side is the connection to science. And this is actually the counting the sheep book. But the science involved in counting the sheep is the sheep eating, and not so much the science of counting the sheep, but the connection, I suppose, to the sheep is how they eat, which is very disgusting. But I think it's a nice connection, and it talks about science, and actually they eat, when they eat, it goes into the different stomachs, and then they regurgitate it, and it's cut, and then they eat it again. And so, maybe we don't like that, but the kids, I think, will find that very fascinating, and it's a great connection to science. One of the connecting to history at the bottom. This is actually in the mini golf story about measuring distances, and this is the story about when Alan Shepard was on the moon, how one of the things he did when he was on the moon was hit golf balls, and the golf balls are still on the moon. So there's some nonfiction and sort of science elements to that too. Then another interesting one is connecting to art, which is at the top right-hand side. And this is the Blackbeard book, Measuring Distances, and one of the connections is all the famous pirates that have appeared in movies or in stories, like Captain Hook or Jack Sparrow or Captain Blood, so that they can relate to pirates in the fine arts. So I think that this is a nice nonfiction component to the math books. The language arts connections are also there in the math books. They're called What's the Word? Some of them are little sidebars like this, and some of them will actually take up a whole page. For example, in the picnic books, the math concept is counting hot dogs or counting in general to make sure that you have enough for the people that you have at the picnic. And the language arts component is the Teddy Bear's Picnic poem, which it takes up a full page. So there's a really strong language arts connection as well in the books. And then there's more nonfiction kind of fast facts, which are, I think, interesting. And they also will, I've never seen this before, but actually in some of these, they will actually reference different books to read. Did you know you could get more information about this subject in this book, which has always been sort of regulated back into a bibliography, but it's incorporated into the Did You Know section. And then the end of every book is a What Comes Next. And these are really additional activities, really, to strengthen STEM. And the way that they do that is through extension, which means take what you learned in the book and do something on your own with it. So some examples are, for example, on the right-hand side with the girl kicking the soccer ball. This is a book from Football Numbers, Graphing Data. And the activity in What Comes Next is to actually go to a sporting event and collect the statistics at the game and graph them yourself. The one in the middle is, again, the mini golf book, which is about measuring distances. The activity here is to sit down and design your own mini golf course. And then at the far right-hand side at the bottom with the girl looking up. This is from the Winning the Game, which was developing a travel geography quiz. This one is developing your own travel quiz game and going through all of the questions and figuring out how, who's going to win and what the rules are and things like that. So again, it's taking what you learned in the book and applying it to something else that you are really totally in charge of. Okay, and then we have the back matter. Again, sort of typical stuff, the glossary, and further reading, which is broken down into fiction and nonfiction. But here's where the additional notes are, so that any of the math examples that were done in the book, the answers are in the back, for verification. So that's the math series. I'd really like to thank you for your attention. Let us know if you have any questions. The books are just about here. We've just received some advanced copies, and so we're sending them out to people. The rest of the inventory should be in by the end of next week, and so if you don't have yours this week, you'll have them probably the third week in January as time goes by. And you'll also be receiving the poetry book as well. I would like to thank you for your attention, and I hope that you have a happy new year. And now I'm going to turn it over to Frank, who will discuss marketing and sales promotions for spring. Frank?
Thanks, Patty. Just one last thing with the back matter. Down at the very bottom, just in case your customers are interested as you're showing the samples, there is a little quick blur about David Hughes, just kind of talking about his credibility and kind of what he brought to the table. And so I just wanted to make sure that we talked about that moving forward. And that's available in each one of the books in the back matter. Again, we're going to be talking about some marketing promotional activity that we have for the spring 2013. First thing that I want to talk about, again this year, like we did last year, is we have developed a 2013 spring supplement. This supplement deals specifically with the IMAS series and will work in conjunction with the full catalog that we still have available as a companion. This supplement is getting ready to ship, as well as the books, as Patty mentioned. We're looking at the second week of January to make sure that these are all in your hands, possibly a little bit later than that. And then, as the end of the month comes along, if there's still things that you're missing, please feel free to get in touch with me and let me know, and I'll check on where they are and where we are in the process of getting those out to you. As we've mentioned before, with this supplement, there are going to be references to the downloadable CTSS correlations on our website. As we go through the next couple of slides, I'll show you where to find those correlations within the individual title listings, and that's something that's a great representation of the work that's been put into the series, as well as a few of the others, and is an excellent tool for librarians as well as teachers as you bring these books around. This supplement, along with the full catalog, includes information on our estimated accelerated reading levels, F&P levels, as well as Lexile levels. The ones in the spring catalog, many of those are a little bit more concrete, but as soon as we do get the direct information from Accelerated Reader, from F&P, and from Lexile, we'll be passing that along to you in either an Excel spreadsheet or some other form for you to distribute to your customers. This supplement specifically takes a look at the IMAS series, as I said before, and provides extensive information on the series as well as individual books in each one of the levels, from A through C. There's also an order form on the back of that. Another marketing material, another piece of marketing material that we will have available for all of you, and many of you have seen already, is the sales sheet for IMAS. This is a little bit less information to carry around than the supplement, while providing information on the series. It doesn't necessarily go into each individual title, but does give a description of the book's features, who we worked with on the project, and then a little overview of how it correlates to the Common Core. On the back side of that, you'll find a standard library order form. And one thing before I move on to the next slide that I want to mention is that we are currently working on a collapsible library catalog order form. That's something that we've had some suggestions for in the past, and we really didn't know the best way to go about doing it. But Lisa, who is our office manager and customer service manager, has figured out a way to do it for us, and we'll be providing that to each of you in an email coming up fairly soon. One thing that I do want to mention, and I'll mention it again as we get into the promotions, is that if you do have any specific questions or specific requests for individual orders, Lisa would definitely be your best contact. She handles most of the orders and oversees that whole process, and it would be very helpful to include information relating to specials or special requests on your orders, or just get a hold of her directly and let her know about those orders as they come in. Another piece of marketing material that we have available is for the first book that Patty talked about, Individual Poems for Social Justice. Again, this is an overview of the book, giving a brief overview of what's included with the book, as well as contributors, and then some basic information regarding the book in general, page count, ISBN, exactly how many poems are included. It mentions the foreword, and it also gives pricing information. This does not have an order form on the back of it, but will be included in the classable order form that we send out within the next few weeks. If anybody has any questions once that stuff is all sent out, please get a hold of me, and I'd be happy to help you with that. Next, I want to briefly discuss our website. Over the last couple of years, Norwood House Press has done extensive work in updating their website to be a lot more user-friendly and provide a lot more options as far as marketing materials as well as preview materials, along with teacher-related resources and librarian-related resources. The first of which I want to discuss is the Common Core. There are printable PDFs for each of the following series: for Dear Dragon, A Great Idea, iScience, Poetry Builders, Second Nature, and Writing Builders. And coming soon, we'll also have printable PDFs for the iMath series. As you can see, if you follow the arrow, it points to the green hyperlink, which will open up a PDF that has all the information related to CCSS. It's great because it draws a direct line between individual standards, what they mean, and where you can find them exactly within the text of our books. Next, I want to discuss teacher's notes. Again, this will be a printable PDF for the Dear Dragon, A Great Idea, iScience, Poetry Builders, Second Nature, and again, coming in January, the iMath series. This will provide a little more insight to the teacher or librarian and help provide them with the opportunity to develop lesson plans and things like that that are highly valuable today. Last but not least, on the individual book page is the Google Preview. Every single book that Norwood House Press has available is available in the Google Preview. This will allow you to access 20% of the book without having the physical book in front of you. It'll provide a snapshot of the table of contents as well as illustrations, pictures, sample text, and every book there's a little bit of variation, but it all provides a good overview of the book if you don't happen to have it handy with you. Each one of the books, as you pull up the individual title, will give you a list of related items on the left-hand side of the screen. This will be a good way to get some of your customers interested in perhaps some of the other books in the series, or let them know about another series that relates to the one that they're currently looking at. Again, this is all new within the last few years, and it really has come together to be a great user-friendly website for not only you out in the field being able to show your customers a little bit of additional material, but also when your customers go into order, they can really select and look around and see a lot of what we have to offer. Next, I want to discuss with you something that most of you are already getting. I'm sure that there may be one or two people that haven't gotten on this list, and if you're not getting the online newsletter, I encourage you to get in touch with me as soon as this is over and let me know. The online newsletter goes out once every 2 weeks, and we actually have over 6,500 contacts at this point. Now, this is a marketing process that you can be involved with as well. If you have a customer list, or if you have an email list, you can feel free to send that to either myself or to Ashley, and we'll add those names to the list and make sure that every other week they receive important updates and information regarding Norwood House Press. This could be anything from our latest reviews to upcoming book announcements, updates to our website, where we will be or where you will be as far as trade shows are concerned. I know that that's something that it's nice to inform your customers a little bit ahead of time that you're going to be there. And as I've said before, this goes out every other week. Again, if you have any contact to add, please get in touch with Ashley, and she'd be happy to help you out. Next, I want to talk about some of our advertising and reviews. Patty touched on this a little earlier, but we do work very closely with a lot of review sources and have already given them preview copies to get the ball rolling on not only Indivisible, but also the IMAS series. We work very closely and have ads in Library Media Connections, Book List, School Library Journal, and we've also started to move towards the digital side of advertising with some of these. LMC in a flash is a perfect example where we've seen that there is a change in how we're supposed to be advertising and how it helps you out in the field, and we have made steps forward to kind of get a little bit more advanced with our digital advertising. Some of the reviews over the last few months that I want to discuss are Dear Dragons Go Reader. This is actually a project that's been picking up steam over the last few months. We're starting to see a little bit more of a return on the investment that we put into the audio portion of that. That was through School Library Journal, and it was an excellent review. Another review that we've recently got was from Library Media Connections. These are all reviews that have gone out through that newsletter, but again, this was something recent we just wanted to make sure you were aware of if you hadn't already known. Same thing for the New York Giants, the Team Spirit Football. That came through Book List. And the thing that I would encourage you to do with that series in particular is to take some time and go through the Team Spirit websites, both Overtime and Extra Innings. These have started to gain a lot of acclaim from people who have come to us and said, you know, this is great material. There's now videos added for each individual team. Mark Stewart has put a lot of effort into building a safe, fun site for kids that can actually contact him directly with no advertising and no other outside influence. It is just the Team Spirit series, both on the Extra Innings and Overtime side. And you can access through our website, or on the back of each of the Team Spirit books, there's a link to each one. Another review that I wanted, what's that?
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to mention that the book list review of the Team Spirit did say that the Team Spirit revised edition was worth the new purchase. And so sometimes things get revised and no one can figure out why they are new. But in the review it said that it was worth the new purchase. So I just wanted to mention that to everyone.
No, absolutely. That's a great point, Patty. And it really is a series that we felt there was a need for it. And one of the biggest catches with the team books is their ability to go to out of date very quickly. The books being updated as well as the extension with the website provides a longer shelf life and gives much more of a life to the books in general, which you won't find with any other team series on the market today. I think I mentioned the Second Nature review, but that was also a great one that we got through Library Media Connections. We are running similar promotions to the ones that we ran in the fall of 2012. The first one that I want to discuss is the Dear Dragon Plush. We have had quite a few of our reps gravitate to this order and have turned out some great orders just for this little guy. This is something that we're going to continue on through the spring, and we want to make sure that you guys all realize, realize that this is something that's exclusive to you at this point. We do want you to take full advantage of it. We have had requests from a lot of different people to kind of bring this over, but we feel that this is a great rep promotion, and we'd like to keep it that way for a long time. Next, I want to talk about the updated rep specials for the spring of 2013. We've gotten a lot of feedback. We had a lot of positive, big dollar orders as a result of the fall promotion, and we decided to make it a little bit more enticing in adding in an iPad to the promotion. So as you see, the first $500 and over, your customers are eligible for the free Dear Dragon plush. At $750, they're eligible for 15 free books of their choice. $1,000 equals 25 free books. Then we've actually upgraded at the $1,500 order level to the Nook HD, which is the most recent version of the Nook, and I've actually had the opportunity to play around with those, and they really did make some great advancements from the original Nook up to the HD. Last but not least, at the $3,500 level, you'll notice that there's a free 16 megabit iPad. This is the brand new iPad on the market, and we really hope that this generates some big dollar orders. We've had some requests, and we've actually worked with reps in the past to try to put some iPad promotions into play, and we just wanted to make sure that this was something that all of you had the opportunity to take advantage of. If any of you have questions about these levels or the prizes that come along with them, please feel free to get in touch with me, and I'd be happy to discuss those with you. And at this point, I'm going to just take a look and make sure that I'm not missing any questions from anyone. It doesn't look like anybody's written anything into the questions box, and so I will just leave it at this. If you do have any questions, please feel free to email me directly. I'd be happy to help, or give me a call. However you feel comfortable getting in touch with me, I'd love to help out. And what I'd really like to say as we conclude is that we all really appreciate your efforts in the field. We had a great year here this year, and we're looking forward to building on that again in 2013. I think with the orders that are coming in, the one thing that I'll say in finale is that if you could be specific about rep specials or particular items that need to be paid attention to, please make sure to let Lisa know that. She is she does a fantastic job for us, but she's still working at mind reading. That's a little joke around the office is that she can actually help it all get together faster as long as she has all the details to start with. And so that is one thing. I do have a question here as far as the prize incentives. It is one individual prize per order. It's not something where as you build up to that 3,500, you get everything included. You know, at each level, you do cross into a different threshold where things are available. And if there's questions about that, you know, you're more than welcome to ask me directly, and we'll take care of that. My office is getting a little bit dry here, and so we must be getting towards the end of this. I do want to thank everybody for taking some time out today. I know that the holidays are just kind of winding down, and this might not be the easiest time to get in touch with all of us, but I do appreciate, we all appreciate everyone taking some time out. I especially want to thank David Hughes for participating again. He did a fantastic job. Thank you to Patty, and thank you to all of you. Enjoy 2013, and I look forward to talking with all of you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.